Yeah, just moved here.
Wow. How
And
amazing.
the zip code is 46226.
46226. And your last name, unless you want me to write Brian Dull.
You can put my last name. So it's Vill.
All right, all right. All right. What's up, guys? Hope everyone is doing well. Um, I want to kind of just talk about. I mean, we're gonna cover a lot of things today. Now, I need to preface when we talk about tournament play and when we talk about competing with a couple of things. For you to enjoy the game, for you to be good at the game, it doesn't mean that you have to enter tournaments. I truly believe that when we're talking about being a competitor, when we talk about going into competition, right? We're talking to a very niche specific type of individual. Just to kind of give you a quick background about me, I started competing in Street Fighter 4 back in when I want to say maybe a sophomore or in high school or a freshman in high school, which is going ways back. I graduated in 2011, so do the math. So it's around like whatever 2008, 2009, 2010. And yeah, there's really two types of experiences that happen when you actually go into a tournament. Now, I'm not talking about today online tournament where you're safe in your room, in your boxer briefs, eating a hot pocket in between the tournament matches. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about going into a store, going into a place where you're sitting down next to an opponent and eyes are on you and there's noise in the background, people yelling, people getting hype, people that might pop off on you. It is always most of the time a friendly environment, but sometimes it just isn't. Sometimes people are against you. People want you to lose. I'm talking about the environment where you have to, have the common courtesy to shake hands and say good game and things like that, and look the person in the eye. The person's right there. It's not just some, no face opponent that you face online. Anyway, there's two different types of people that really have an experience when it comes to an actual tournament. When it comes to actually being in the tournament, one or two things happened after the tournament. It's either they are upset and they're like, you know what, this isn't for me. I didn't really like actually participating in the tournament, or I don't have a shot. I'm clearly not good enough, and things like that. Or there's the other side where you say, okay, I have some things to work on, because no one's first tournament you're gonna blow it out the water. Everyone thinks they're gonna, oh, I'm good, and then they realize that they're not. The ego gets stripped away from your body and your soul, and it's really interesting. You have different types of reactions to it, but there are a niche group of people that say, hey, you know what, I have things to work on. I actually kind of enjoyed the fact that there's so many people that are passionate about getting better, passionate about taking the game to the next level, and I want to be part of that. So you have to be a certain type of individual. And this is really more towards those types of individuals. There's nothing wrong with not liking tournaments, nothing wrong with wanting to play casually, nothing wrong with, you know what, I like the game, I'm a fan of the game, I like to see competition, but I'm not going to be the person that competes. There's nothing wrong with that. There's, you can be a content creator, there's other routes you can go. But for people that want to compete and to be in the trenches and really enjoy the grind of improvement, like exercising, like getting good at a specific sport, this is for you. This is who I'm speaking to when I talk about tournament play. Now, we're actually going to go over some matches, and I'm going to be predominantly speaking about Street Fighter 5 because that's the game I'm most proficient in and I have the most knowledge in. But keep in mind, I don't want you to pay attention to, if Street Fighter 5 is not your main game, I don't want you to pay attention to be like, oh, now I know this about Street Fighter. That's not the goal. I want you to more so think about, oh, this is the type of mentality, or, oh, this is the type of person that would go to the extent of thinking about certain things in the game. So this way you can apply it to shooters, you can apply it to sports games, and you can apply it to any other game that you're trying to compete in. It's not so much of the specifics of the information, but the type of mentality that it takes when it comes to playing at a higher level and playing at a competitive level. Now, I want to actually look at some of the matches that we did, not too long ago, where we got an opportunity to kind of verse each other in a 1-to-5 setting and play online and see what happened. So let's actually transition over. So you're gonna see me for a little bit. Hold on, my analytics. Boom. Okay. So I'm actually gonna pull up. So this is the previous stream. And we're just going to go through, and I'm going to be stopping on the way through of like between these matches and letting you know what's going down. So we're going to just go over some of these matches first, and then after this, I'm going to talk about more of the specifics of actual other stuff when it comes to tournament plays. So right here we have Urian versus Balrog. So one thing to keep in mind, right? For this specific game, matchups are a big part of how well your character is going to perform and what your character can get away with in each match. Now, this takes game knowledge. That's probably the number one thing for any game you kind of need to compete in, is game knowledge. What do I mean by game knowledge? I mean the specifics of what people usually go for. That's more of player knowledge, but also what you can and can't do in most scenarios. It's very hard to know everything, but the highest level knows majority of the situations and understands what's called risk reward. I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but let's continue. So Street Fighter V has a mechanic where you're going to be picking a V skill and a V trigger. Depending on whether you're going to... It's specific for each character. So whether you pick one or the two, there's only one or two that you can pick. Determines from matchup to matchup. So we're going to get into this match right here. Okay. So we got JJ Bands with Balrog here. So right away you see me when Urian kind of lifts his hand up. That's his V skill 2. Basically improves his fireball game. And that's what you see, the bigger metallic spheres that he's shooting from his hands here. Okay. So, one thing to kind of talk about when it comes to fighting games, and this actually applies to not so much shooters, I don't think. So, there's something called frame data. Now, I don't want to make this about frame data and like knowing the specifics and numbers about frame data, but it is something to kind of be aware of when it comes to games and people that compete. There's this language, a language that people speak and use certain terminology that people reference to, and when people speak about certain things in the game, most of the time, if you're completely new, you're gonna be like, "What the hell are they talking about? What the hell is frame data?" So here's what frame data is quickly. Think of frame data as increments of time. We're talking about milliseconds that happen in the game. There's 3 types, okay? Follow me now. We have startup frames, which basically, say my character's move is a punch, right? It takes a certain amount of time for my punch to actually come out. So that would be startup frames. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be the startup frames. Now there's active frames. So you have startup, and then when the punch connects, that's where it's doing damage. So that time from when I release my punch, and then it transitions to the time I do damage with the punch, That would be the active frames, the active time that I'm able to hit something. And then I have the recovery. So we have startup, active, and then recovery would be me getting my punch back to my guard so I can throw maybe another punch or I can do something else. So these are small increments of time. Now, why I bring this up is you're going to see throughout this match, and I looked it over, is when I connect with, say, a normal speaking like a punch or a kick, more times than not, there's always an exception to the rule, but more times than not, when you get hit, you're at a disadvantage, meaning that I have more advantageous frames, so that if I hit another button and you hit another button at the same time, I'm gonna more times than not beat your button. I'm gonna win in that situation. So you see these kind of wild swings happening. The mistake that my man JJ Bands made is after getting hit, he wants to return with an attack right away. And because of the spacing and where I'm at, I'm able to hit him again. And you're going to see a bunch of times where he should have been just blocking. So right there. So you see this sequence. He got hit. And the game will actually tell you that you tried to do something and got hit for it. And what you see on the screen is something, it says counter hit. That's what you'll see. So, zoning. I went back a little too far. So you see where it says counter hit? It comes up on this little area. So here. So counter hit. He tries to walk forward. He gets hit again. That's a punish. So yeah, so here I just saw he wasn't challenging anymore, and I took advantage. So the whole thing with fighting games and competing is there's a big part that people just aren't aware of is the newer players, they'll want to get into a flow chart, or they just kind of, in a way, autopilot. They kind of stick to what they know and stick to doing the kind of same things that maybe got them success in another match or got them success against someone else. But that doesn't work in tournament play because you have people that are aware of patterns, right? It's just like fighting. When you start to use the same pattern over and over, then it could be exploited. So it's here, we're poking. Now, here's something to keep aware of, and this happens in the other matches too, is you see a lot of trying to escape the situations, like jumping back or not moving forward, not taking the space when they can. And what this results in is being put in the corner a lot. If you're not going to take advantage of the times where you can space, and knowing when to do this is very hard. It takes a lot of time, mind you. But if you're giving up too much ground, you're going to be put in a bad situation where you're in the corner and defensively you're at a big disadvantage. Why is it such a bad disadvantage to be in the corner? You can't move back. And when you can't move back, you can't make things whiff. You can't necessarily gain space easily, because I'm going to be smothering you against that corner. And that's true for all fighting games. Here I messed up. So I'm just poking. All right, he does a good job counter hitting. Didn't check the dash. Gets a nice super confirm. So, relatively in Street Fighter, and again, this is different for each fighting game. Biggest things you don't want people to get away with is jumping and dashing at you. If people are constantly dashing in your face, constantly jumping in on you, that's a big problem. To deal with these issues, If someone's dashing, there's preemptive normals or reacting. You can react to the dash forward with the jabs and then confirming into a special move. Jumps, each character has what's called an anti-air, or the move that you're going to do when someone jumps at you. That's also space specific and things like that. But in simple terms, you have to figure out for your character which is their anti-air. Here we go. So that was unsafe, but I missed the punish. So kind of a little wild here. But managed to get the win. So we're going to fast forward. Okay, let's see what happened here. Okay, so look what happens here. All right, I see he's staying back, so I'm using fireballs. Now, what Balrog wants to do in this specific matchup is to not allow me to throw fireballs freely. Because what happens is, you let him do that, you're going to take a whole bunch of chip damage. It's going to be very hard for you to actually land your damage. Balrog has V-Skill 1, which you have here. If you look on the bottom right, V-Skill 1, he does a little turnaround. And with that turnaround, he's actually able to move past projectiles. So going to training mode, definitely get used to going past projectiles with that and punishing people for just throwing fireballs all day. This there's really not much you can do about, because I use the V-Skill. The powered up fireball is really not something you can get around like that without taking a risk and jumping. And you can get punished for trying to do that too. So, but see what this allows me to do? I use the fireball here, the safe fireball, and I took the space in front of me. Look at all the space I gained there by dashing twice. And now I'm counter hitting. Doesn't want to block. So now he's in the corner. This is the worst position you can be in. Let's see what he does. Tries to jump out, gets clipped, and boom, stun. So there's a little corner combo here. And yeah, you see how many counter hits are coming up. There shouldn't be that many counter hits. You need to be switching up your defensive options. If you're always going to one defensive options, the game's going to end fast. Your defense is just going to get exploited. So sometimes you block. Sometimes you don't block. Sometimes you jump. Sometimes you don't jump. Mixing it up. I can tell you right now, when I was boxing, that was one of the biggest lessons I had to learn, because I always wanted to, pop a jab, and try to move. But people caught on to that. I said, oh, this guy's all he's going to do is jab, so I'm just going to counter it. So, got to mix it up. And again, not dealing with the fireballs, not addressing it is a big disadvantage here. See, you're trying to return. You're trying to return attacks. I missed the super. That was the wrong combo. So knowing also, taking the time out to go into training, understand, to work on your execution, your ability to actually deal damage, your ability to actually complete combos is vital as well. So we're actually going to skip ahead here. I'm going to go down to, let's see this match here. So we have Alex versus Akuma. And we're not going to go through every single match. I just want to go through some of the main ones that we can kind of break down real quick. Okay. So we got Akuma switch. So right away, I'm a little bit thrown off. He starts doing demon flips, which are this forward moving move. And it does a Tatsu in neutral. Now, the thing about that move is unsafe. That's not a move that you throw out. It's not really used for that. So you need to take the time out for, as far as when you're going to pick a character, a specific character, And this is the same thing for shooters, right? When you pick a specific gun, you have to practice its recoil pattern, right? In fighting games, you have to look at each character's individual moves, right? We have to not only look at how fast or how slow these moves are, we have to think about what are these moves actually for? At what point would I use these moves? Is this move specifically for combos? Is this move specifically to stop people from jumping in? Is this move specifically for spacing? Like a fireball? Take a look. So you try to jump at me, I anti-aired. That's one of his moves. That's a down heavy punch. So he jumps again and right again, got anti-aired. It's not worth it to just jump in on your opponent. You take too much damage. Not only did I get damage, but now I put you in a situation where you have to guess on defense. And that's bad. Now you're in the corner. So I'm just poking. Trade with the fireball. And here I saw what he was going for. And this is not a bad thing. So what he tried to do is actually buffer his crouching medium kick into a Tatsu. And that's something you want to kind of put in your game. Because when you make something whiff, say I put out a punch or a kick, and it whiffs on you, there's a certain amount of time where you can actually hit that normal. It's like countering someone. So, in this situation, right, he tried to do a crouching medium kick, but I blocked it. But unfortunately, because he was buffering the special move, it came out anyway. So you want to make sure you're trying to bait me to do a normal so that you can counter it and then buffer into a special move. And again, the Tatsus, you can't just throw out. You're going to get punished. When I say something's unsafe, it means that when you do this move, you're vulnerable. Your character is vulnerable to take damage. So when I say something is safe, it means that I can't deal back damage for free. So it's a little bit different from being in disadvantage. So if you're at a disadvantage, you may still be safe, but if we were to press a button at the same time, I would win. So it's a distinction. Punishable means that no matter what you do, I'm going to get free damage on you because you threw out this move. If you're at disadvantage, you could be safe, but if you were to throw out another move after that situation, you're taking the risk of potentially getting counter hit and taking more punishment. So I activate V-trigger into super. I think you're still alive here. Yep, you got a sliver. Okay, yep. That's something you got to be careful as Akuma. When you throw out certain moves, if I have a parry, it's an easy counter. I can parry, go ahead. I can command grab or get whatever type of damage. The characters that have some sort of counter or parry, you have to be wary of what moves you throw out because you don't want to take a whole lot of damage. All right, we got the next game. That little pose there is Alex's V-Skill 2, in case you were wondering. Okay, so see what happened here? I hit him with the slash, and he tried to press a button right after. So remember what I said about if you get hit with a move, you're at disadvantage? This is that situation right here. He got hit, tried to return a button, and gets clipped for it. I want to go back just a little bit. So what he should have done here is block. Or if he predicted that I was going to grab him, he can backdash or jump. So here, boom, he gets counter hit. Here he learned to block. But he activated V trigger. And you can't just activate in front of my face. Usually you have to do a move and cancel into the V trigger. So certain moves have cancel windows. So when I say cancel windows, let's go back to my example of punching. If I go to punch, it's like as if I followed it up with another punch right after. So I'm canceling I'm canceling the recovery, me punching. I'm canceling it into another punch. So that's what I mean by cancel. But there's only a certain amount of window. I can't do this and this. There's a huge gap. It's 1, 2. I know there's a lot. There's a lot of concepts being thrown at you. But try to keep up. Okay. Just so happen to get hit with that. Now, it's not about... So... Let me go back here. There's things you can do, right? When I talk about you shouldn't throw out this move, I'm not saying you can't surprise somebody. I'm not saying that you can't catch someone off guard. But when I talk about risk reward, it's not in your favor. It's like making an investment, right? When you go to do stocks or you're investing in someone, you want the best chance possible, right? You would want your probability of success to be high. And that's what you have to do for fighting games, is think about what is the probability of success for such and such move in such and such situation. The risk reward, you got a little bit of damage because you surprised me, right? Look how little. Let's see, does it do it? So look at the little damage, right? But if we looked at the damage he would have took if I blocked it, it's heavily in my favor. I do more damage to him for doing that than him just surprising me the one time. Counter hit. So that move right there, this forward lariat that Alex does, when I talk about plus frames, that means I have frames of advantage. So when you block this move, it's still my turn. It's not your turn to actually attack. So here you got counter hit. So plus frames, he tries to do a fireball, a return fireball, and look what happens. He gets counter hit. Stun is high. Yeah, he activates. Okay, gets a jump in. So there, he was punishable there after that fireball. And this takes time. This takes time to understand for your character. Where is it I'm safe? Where is it I'm not safe? It's like when you're playing shooter, it's like having map knowledge, right? It's like having knowledge of where can I take cover, what's a good vantage point. It's the same concept. Let's fast forward here. Just one more. We're going to look at M. Bison versus Kage. Okay, so right away. This is what I was... So you're going to see here why it's so important for you to be good at defending jump-ins and defending people that just dash in your face. Because this character looks cheap if you allow him to be cheap. So this is concept of, if you don't know defensively what to do against this character, he's going to look like the most broken character you've ever faced. And this is, again, matchup knowledge, game knowledge. It takes time, and it takes for you to study a little bit. And this is what it takes. This is what people know. They have a library, a plethora of knowledge in their mind as they're playing that they can reference to. Here we go. Throws a fireball. Bison has a V skill, which is an ability to absorb fireballs and actually send out a fireball of his own after he absorbs it. So throwing fireballs all the time against this character specifically isn't always the greatest idea, because not only is he absorbing your projectile and throwing it, you're giving him a tool, he's also building this gauge right here, this V gauge at the bottom left. So you see these two gauges? In Street Fighter, you have your special gauge, so you can do enhanced special moves, and then this V gauge is another system mechanic, so it allows me to activate V-Trigger, which is a state where I'm powered up, and then it allows you to actually access defensive options that you wouldn't normally have. And I'm going to talk about that in a sec. So there you see the fireball. I dash up because he got knocked down, taking the space. I get clipped here for dashing at him, so he did a good job. Okay, so I noticed he's going to this fierce heavy kick as a main poke. Again, don't be throwing out the Tatsus like that. So he jumped, he gets anti-aired. Good amount of damage. Okay, he gets thrown. So here's another problem with a lot of newer players. So they finally get me down, and what happens is I wake up with a jab, or he knocks me down, and I just grab him on my wake up meaning I'm getting up off the floor, right? This situation, and he gets punished. So there's a certain timing that he's missing, or a button that's not active enough to catch me if I'm not blocking. So there's another situation that happens. Watch. So this happens. I get knocked down right here. So he mistimed the throw. He tried to throw me, and this throw whiffs. And now that he tried to throw, that throw is still in recovery. Remember the jab analogy? That you have startup, active, recovery. So this right here is recovery. See how he missed the grab. And when I wake up, I throw him. He gets thrown. Boom. So you have to time on my wake up. If you're next to me on my wake up, you have to either, one, you have to mix up your offensive options and make sure that if you're going to do what's called a meaty, or a move that's going to punish if I do anything but block, it has to be timed correctly. So that doesn't happen. Huh. And you see, I'm having a great time. Boom. Okay, so you uppercutted it and traded. So I got crossed up. It could have been bad for me. So you see, so he did this forward fierce again. Right here, he's going to do a fierce, but what happens is he canceled into the target combo, which is fierce heavy kick. This heavy kick misses on crouching opponents. So this is another thing to be aware of. Certain moves will only hit if the opponent is crouched or standing. So if you do a certain move up close that doesn't hit crouching opponents, like this one, you get punished for it. Using some meter, counter hit. Now I see that he's blocking now. I'm here. All I just want to do is smother him into the corner. Now, this looks so oppressive and so broken and so cheap. I could just spam and keep him in the corner. There's really not much we can do unless he can utilize the V trigger here. What he can do is what's called the V reversal in this game. So when you're blocking, you can input a command that will actually cancel your block animation into a move that will push me back. And that generates space so that you have a better chance of defending in the corner. And this is game-specific things. This doesn't happen in every single fighting game. This is learning the mechanics of said fighting game. So, I threw a lot at you right there. I'm going to actually transition over back. I threw a lot at you there. There's a whole lot to talk about when it comes to fighting games, because the problem is, it's like I have to basically address where you're at specifically. If people don't know anything about the game, it doesn't make sense for me to talk about frame data. We have to talk about what are special moves. What is having a super? What does that even mean? Right? How does that even used? Then, if you're an intermediate level, we have to go into, okay, frame data, making punishes, stopping anti-airs, and then it just keeps on going. If you're advanced, we're talking about character-specific matchups and, mix-up situations that'll confuse opponents and things like that. There's always a higher level, and it just keeps on going up. And that's what makes fighting games and competing, honestly, exciting, because there's a path to growth. There's a long path to growth, a hard and a path that takes a lot of effort, but there's a very rewarding path, because when you take the time out, when you start to beat people you wouldn't beat if you were first playing the game, there's a sense of accomplishment. There's a sense of, feeling. It's like when you weigh in at the scale, if you're trying to lose weight, when you finally see that you dropped 5, 10, 20 pounds, you're like, damn, I feel great about myself because I put in hard work. Same thing with gaming. And this, again, applies to not just fighting games. We're talking about shooters, understanding knowledge, understanding these intricate concepts, that you don't normally see outside of stuff. And I like to compare a lot of the fighting games and competition to competitive sports. It's pretty much the same. It's just a lot of people don't know that, or the information isn't as available or out there like sports. So I want to talk about kind of switch gears here and talk about some other things to think about that are outside the game. One thing I wanted to address is geography. Now, of course, now in 2021, we're seeing a lot more online tournaments. And if you're not aware, there is some issues with that, by the way, online tournaments. With fighting games specifically, I don't know how it is in other games, but we've seen instances where people have made a tournament, an online tournament, and they actually enter themselves, right? They host a tournament, they enter themselves, and they seed themselves so that they can have an easy path to get far in the tournament. So with the seeding system, they put themselves with easier opponents to get far so they look better. We've also had issues of people making multiple accounts, so they enter the tournament multiple times, so they have more chance of getting far in the bracket, which is super unfair. So, something to think about. But I want to talk about geography. Why do I want to talk about geography? Because if you're in, say, in the middle of the country where there's not a huge scene for your game, it becomes very difficult to play locally. So you almost have to rely on online. We are fortunately very blessed to be in New York, for those who are in New York, because we have one of the biggest, if not one of the best, local scenes when it comes to fighting games. And it's been like this for generations and generations for a long time. New York, East Coast, and West Coast are the most predominant areas in the country where we find the strongest players. The Capcom Cup champion comes from New York. His name is Idom. I competed against him. I played against him. We ran each other in tournament. So to have that experience to play the Capcom Cup champion of the game, to have that experience is huge. It's monumental to someone that's trying to kind of grow and see what is the skill gap between where you are and the highest level. If you guys don't know, Next Level Battle Circuit is in Brooklyn, and that's where the best Street Fighter players and some of the best Dragon Ball FighterZ players, some of the best Soul Calibur players in the country play at. Not just New York, not just the East Coast, in the country. So we are very blessed to have that as a resource, to go out there and have dialogue with these types of players, because people don't realize how much importance it is to discuss about the game and have feedback about the game. That's the one thing that makes it a bigger disadvantage when you're playing only online, is when you're offline, you could talk about the match to your opponent right then and there. You could talk to him, you can get his thoughts on the matchup, ask for advice, give advice. There's an exchange of information that is happening instantaneously and at a rapid rate that doesn't happen online. It only really happens at your local scene and being in the seat next to the people, right? So take advantage of your geography. Other places to think about too, you know, Japan, of course, is very strong. Korea is very strong. You have some very strong scenes in South America. Just be aware. Other thing to talk about is health. I don't know any athlete that doesn't think about health when it comes to performance. It's the same thing with this. It was like, oh, we're just sitting down. We're just, you know, on our controllers. Yes, it is not a physically demanding type of field, right? It's not a physically demanding thing. But honestly, I can tell you from experience from competing, getting enough sleep really affects your ability to focus, your alertness of situations, and alertness of what your opponent's doing and going for. If you're underslept, you're just not going to perform with the best of your ability, period. Anything you do, sports, when you're lifting, anything. Sleep is important. If you're playing, I'm someone that can't play while they're hungry. I'm someone that can't play if I'm thinking about food, I'm thinking about what we're going to eat after and things like that. I can't focus. Maybe you can, but I can tell you for one, I just cannot. I need to have a good sense of me being satiated with food so I can focus on the game and things like that. So something to think about. We've talked about risk management. The general concept of risk management is this. You picking options in the game that allow you to be relatively safe and keeping on a path of being relatively safe for victory. So when you're taking a whole bunch of unnecessary risks, you jeopardize not only you potentially losing the game, you're jeopardizing basically the information that you would have gained. Right? If you were playing all crazy and wild and not really thinking about what the opponent is doing, if the opponent adapts to you, right, it might be too late to adapt back. So because you didn't play safe initially, or relatively safe, you're allowing yourself not to get certain information throughout the match or the game. So that's another thing here. Because it's all about information, right? Taking what's given to you and being able to adapt to it, to handle it, to condition the opponent. When I talk about conditioning the opponent, put them in situations where you're looking to see what options they go to. Do they block? Do they not block? Do they throw? Do they not throw? Do they jump? Do they not jump? I want to put them in these situations to see what they do, so I have the appropriate answer. Another thing to talk about is being on tilt. If you never heard this term, what it means is you're in a state of mind where you're frustrated, and because maybe your execution's off, because maybe you don't know what to do, or because you're blaming a certain defeat on a certain character or a situation that's outside of the game, you get thrown off your game. It's just like sports. Like if you're someone that is playing a sport, football or something, and you get mad with your opponent, you get baited into getting emotional, right? You're not thinking about the game. You're just thinking about that situation. You're letting your emotions overcome you. That's not good for growth, because you're being selfish in the sense of nothing else matters. And trust me, it happens to everybody. I've been put on tilt. Everyone gets put on tilt. But having the experience and the tool set and the resources to say, you know what, like, it is frustrating, but I'm not going to focus on that right now. I'm just going to focus on regrouping and doing what I got to do for the next match. I'm going to forget about what happened in the last match. I'm going to forget about the stuff that was frustrating to me, and I'm going to focus up and do what I have to do and get the job done. Because if you dwell on the past, you dwell on the mistakes, you're just going to spiral down. You're going to spiral down into this rabbit hole where it's going to be too late. And the last thing is to reflect. So like we just did, we went over some of these matches. We went over some of the mistakes players made. We went over why I was doing certain things, right? This is something you have to put yourself in the habit of, is reflecting on your gameplay, reflecting on what happened. Always be asking the question after your match, win or loss, what could we have done better? What was giving us trouble? What was something I didn't understand? What was something that was happening that didn't make sense to me? This reflection process, this analytic, take the time out, sit and think about it, is so essential to competitive play. Because if you don't do this, who knows how long you're going to go on with not knowing certain information? Who knows how long you're going to go on thinking you're doing the right thing, right? So being able to take a step back and think about it is huge. And reflect on, what would I would have changed if I was back in that situation? And a big tool to help you with this, because sometimes you can't remember everything, is to record your gameplay. Use a capture card, or if you're on console, PS4, Xbox, go ahead and record your gameplay. Record your matches. Record, and then run it back. Get a group of your friends or people that are also trying to get better, and review it together. Say, hey, dude, do you mind looking over a match for me? And say, can you point out what I could have done better? So this way you have an outside perspective. It's not just you. Now you have bigger consciousnesses of people going in and critiquing you and giving you good feedback that you can use. So getting other perspectives, reviewing, taking the time out to break down these things is what's going to make you grow. It's not always just about playing matches. I used to have the bad habit of just like, I'm just going to go into ranked or casual play and just play a bunch of matches back to back, grind it out. Yes, there is grinding involved, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you just play. You need to have the grind mentality for reviewing matches, actually looking at what other pros are doing, what other competitors are doing with your character or with these matches. You need to do that. And that's a grind. It takes time, but it's not all about just playing or just sitting in training mode. It's about learning. Maybe you have to learn how to utilize training mode, right? Sometimes you got to learn, what to do against certain characters. Maybe you gotta learn, if you're playing a shooter game, you gotta learn more about the map. Not just playing the map, but see what other people are doing in the map. So that is a big help. But that's pretty much it. I literally go on forever for when it talks about tournament play and the little nuances that happens. But again, if you're someone that's not super advanced, you know, you're not gonna understand. You're not gonna understand some of the terminology and the concepts. But hopefully, you know, with just me talking about it and us kind of going over the matches through osmosis and just, you know, quick little explanations, you kind of understand these concepts. And again, it doesn't matter if you're just not interested in fighting games. You can apply this to anything. So that's pretty much it. I'm hearing some of the feedback from the Zoom call, but let's see here. So I'm actually going to switch over back to the Zoom. Thanks everyone for tuning into the stream.
Real quick, because first, great job, but I didn't know if you had any questions.
Oh yes, let's open up the floor for any questions or comments. Or have you guys played in a tournament? Do you kind of want to play in tournaments? Like, let me get kind of what your thoughts are on all this, because I know I threw a lot at you. Let me see.
Caleb, Jameer, anything?
I'm actually I'm gonna switch over back to the Zoom here.
Yeah, you guys can unmute yourself now.
I'm gonna switch over back. What you say?
Doug, did you have any questions?
No.
So let me ask you this: have you guys competed in a tournament? Have you not? Or have you thought about it?
You said, have we competed in a tournament?
Hello?
Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah, we
dude,
competed.
Valhalla trailer.
Why?
Just check it, bro.
The Kung Fu Panda?
Yes, bro, that's old.
Oh,
Hello?
man.
Can you guys hear me?
We competed in a Smash tournament.
Okay.
It was
But-
a week.
Nah, somebody cheated in the tournament. I lost. Like, he for real cheated.
It was by a streamer. It didn't count.
I mean, it was a tournament.
I don't feel it didn't count. No. I got spammed.
What do you
I
mean?
got cheated.
What do you mean cheated? What does that mean?
So,
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah. Tell him.
so there's a thing out. It's like a Smash website. It tells you, okay, you're up against this guy. Smash DG. You choose your character. I don't even. It was so gimpy, bro. Okay. I'm trying to explain it as best I can. So you pick your character, like you selected on the website, and you're up against the person. They do the same thing. What is you doing, bro? I'm trying to explain. Okay, you and the other person choose your character, the stage you want, and yeah, and somebody makes the lobby private on Smash, and the other person joins. You send them the code, and we did our 2 matches, 2 out of 3. I won the first time, and then the guy messaged me through the stream. That's not me.
Wait, what?
He messaged the streamer. He said, "That's not me." I'm like, "What? What do you mean that's not you?" We had the whole like in the website. What do you mean it's not you? He said, "I don't know. It's not me." And the streamer was like, "I don't know. You should have made it private," which I did and gave the guy the code. But I'm like, you know what? Whatever. And I gave the guy a rematch and he won. I'm like, how is that even fair for me? So I just lost, and I was
You
just,
should have just
I was like,
reported it and not played him, honestly.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing with you know, some of the online tournaments, the way it's set up. And honestly, you know, the way things are set up in game by these developers aren't the easiest to set up tournaments with. But yeah, hopefully with you know, with things coming back to normal, things with COVID, we can get more offline tournaments. Is that something that you wanted to compete in, as far as maybe look into, as far as competing in the future with Smash?
And I mean, I would like to play Smash again. It's just their controllers are very.
Okay.
Like, what?
Because Nintendo Switch, it's Nintendo Switch controller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, as far as the tournament experience, it's gonna vary. You know, it's one of those things where sometimes the people running the tournament aren't as experienced, or they don't necessarily have the experience of dealing with issues that come up, and you know, they don't necessarily make it a bad tournament. I've had bad tournament experiences with organizers. I've had bad experiences with venues and just people at the venue. You know, that's just, it is what it is, unfortunately. But the more you compete, the more you get involved with any type of community, whether it's the Smash community, Street Fighter, R6, whatever. You find that you know where to go as far as competing. You know to stay away from this guy and kind of go to this event instead, and you know who to watch out for and not really talk to, and who to talk to. You kind of learn that along the way. So that's just you know, kind of comes with the territory, unfortunately. Where's also I wanted to ask, you know, as far as competing, what do you think is the biggest issue that kind of holds you back from wanting to compete more, or the issue that holds you back in far as maybe having more success when it comes to competing or just getting better at a game? What do you think is holding you back?
I don't have a level 3 in the air.
What is he talking about?
Oh wait, no,
Caleb,
I
you
do.
listening?
You definitely not listening.
Hello? No, I'm listening.
You're not gonna repeat the whole thing. So.
Listen, I mean, I'm you know, I just want to say, like, I'm doing this for your guys' benefit. I want you guys to learn and kind of learn from the experiences, and you know, I want to take the time and put a lot of you know, things for you guys and tools, and give you guys tools. But you know, if you don't want to take the information and you don't want to listen, you know, that's on you. I respect that. But you know, by making a joke or things like that, you're taking away the experiences from other people that are actually trying to learn. So I just ask, you know, going forward, respectfully, like, if you don't have something to contribute, or if you don't have something to add, or an actual question that of value, to just put yourself on mute and don't talk at all. It's much more beneficial. Now, that being said, does anyone else have any other questions or concerns or anything?
I'm gonna answer your question about the one you said. Anything holding me back in competing or anything like that? I in like games I play, I don't think I have. Yeah, I'll just say I don't think I have enough like high like hours in games, so I'm just like, maybe I won't just win,
Like experience.
bro. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll address this right now. So there seems to be a big problem with a lot of people thinking that they need X amount of hours to be good at the game. Now, do you have to put time in? Of course, we all know that, right? But my philosophy is not to work hard, but to work smart. If you say you're someone that has a lot of things going on in your life, right? If you're working, if you're handling family stuff and things like that, you don't necessarily need the game for all your entire resources of learning the game, right? We have the amazing world of YouTube and content creators out there that will put out content specifically for people that are trying to get better. Not saying you don't do that, but what I'm saying is you don't necessarily need to rely on, again, what I was talking about, just playing matches. Yes, you need that experience at some point, but you don't need to rely on just that. You also have resources like Reddit. There's websites and things that are dedicated to information and just things about the game that isn't normally out there to general people. I can tell you there's a website called Event Hubs that caters to specifically fighting games and writes articles that maybe a pro player found a glitch or there's new tech or highlight of some sort that gives you new information. So it does, again, it takes time to do all these things and time out of your day. But as far as you trying to get better at the game, doesn't necessarily always come from just playing the game for a whole bunch of hours. So work smart rather than work hard. That's my kind of philosophy and advice. And again, you know, it's hard. It's another issue is being motivated. If you're not motivated all the time to want to get good at the game, that could be an issue too. And that's why I stress the importance of finding groups of people and finding other people that are passionate and are good at the game. It is a huge advantage because if you don't have a goal in mind, if you don't have like someone to kind of compete with or to kind of like say like I want to be as good as this person or I want to surpass this type of person or this person, it's very hard to be motivated. And you know, even me that competes from time to time, I'm going to have struggles where, you know, sometimes I'm just not motivated to want to get better. And that's going to happen. That's natural. But that's why I have friends and I have people that I know that are trying to get better day in and day out, or I know that are involved with the competitive scene that keeps me in the loop, keeps me in the arena, to sort of speak, of this is what I have to do, right? So anything else, any other questions? I know Tyree, you've competed. What can you say about your experience of competition, and can you kind of relate to some of the concepts and things that I've been talking about? Can you relate to how I kind of break down matches and things like that?
So with my experience with competing, it was well, it wasn't the best experience, I could say, at that, because so my first tournament I ever competed in was Rainbow Six on Xbox, where, if you guys didn't know, you guys can use mouse and keyboard as well on Xbox, which brings up an unfair advantage for, you know, controller users, but it is what it is at that point. But it was a really like unfair concept at the time, so we actually ended up losing in the first bracket, like the first round, because we found out that the people we're playing against had a mouse and keyboard, and there was no rules saying that they couldn't use it, so they just allowed it, and that kind of frustrated me as well as my teammates. So we kind of just, you know, we just all separated after that. Then I ended up like watching like the pro league players or like the pros play R6, breaking down what they do and compare it to my gameplay. So it's more like a VOD review that I do when it comes to like playing games. I compare myself to other players, compare what I'm doing to what they're doing, and try to match what they're doing to my gameplay. Over like that actually really does help out, in my opinion. You know, just comparing yourself to other people, or compare yourself to like your gameplay to other people's, actually really does help out, and it actually helps you like boost your just like your skills in general.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because you know, that reference experience of you breaking down your match or having someone else break down your match is so big. Like, I can't even tell you how many times where that's helped me against a specific character in a fighting game, or like I can refer back to my mind. It's like, oh yeah, we went over that this is the thing that people do, or this is a thing that I have to be aware of, right? There's so many times where that's happened, and because I took the time out to say, you know what, I'm not gonna get hit with that anymore, or I'm not gonna be confused by that anymore. Like, I made it a point to make sure that doesn't happen to me again, because one, I want to be better. Two, I want to beat this person. That's my drive, right? So you make it a point to be like, I'm not gonna make the same mistakes, and to break that down, it's so key. It's so key. Cool. Any other questions, concerns? I mean, we again talked about a lot, and competing is not, again, for everyone. And some people don't just want to take the time and effort, or you know. But that's the beauty of it. It's like it's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be something that everyone can do, and that's what makes it exciting when you see people at the highest level competing at a certain game, you know, to the best of their ability. That's exciting because we know that it takes so much skill, and we know that it takes so much effort to get to that point, and to see the game fully fleshed out with people using all the knowledge and all the tools and everything. It makes it a very exciting experience, either to witness or to be a part of. So but other than that, that's pretty much it, guys. I'm just gonna end the stream right here. And if you guys have any questions or anything about tournament play in the future, or whether, you know, you're thinking about competing or anything, if you have any questions after this, you know, don't be afraid to, or hesitate to message me on Facebook, message me on Twitter, or reach out to me in some way, and I'll be able to answer any questions or any or even help you out if you want me to review a match or something, and kind of help you out with breaking down certain things. I can do that as well. So I'm here as a resource for you guys to get better and to, you know, increase your experience when it comes to being involved in any type of esport or any type of competitive game.
Listen, Elvis, man, appreciate you for coming here and dropping this game on for all of us. You know, I definitely learned a lot. Made me want to come out of retirement for my show. But yeah, man, thank you very much for you know, for everything you've been giving us in the month of March, by way of gaming and what you know about fighting. It's very helpful and very instrumental. Jameer and Caleb, make sure you say thank you.